We are now talking to the dean of Knicks Film School, Jonathan Macri. What's going on, John?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We are good, man. I mean, we have the hamburger helper, and we have Drizzle in the studio. So, I mean, when you have a Drizz and you need a little hamburger helper, you can go to these guys. They'll feed you and give you a really good time. So that's a good thing. Unlike Julius Randle, of course, with his thumbs up or thumbs down.
I was going to say, you think this guy's really a Knicks fan? Jesus Lord.
How are you? So, well, first of all, how did you become the dean of the Knicks Film School? Obviously, it's a website. And what do you do as the dean of the Knicks Film School?
A little bit of everything, I guess. It's a newsletter. It's a podcast, YouTube channel. It's just, giving content to Knicks fans who don't necessarily want to go the traditional route of reading the same old beat writers, most of whom are amazing. So, yeah. But, it's a Knicks fan analyzing the Knicks.
Now, listen, John.
Not much
This
more
is not a show to kiss anybody's butt now. So
I thought that was very humbling.
It is humbling, but this isn't a show. We have to. If you don't like somebody, you just say it. Okay.
I can't stand you.
Well, I don't hide behind anything. That's for sure.
No,
anyway,
don't get him started.
As you guys know, we are talking to the dean of Knicks Film School, Jonathan Macri. So, John, why don't we get into the Knicks, because you are a Knicks specialist and you have the content to really pizzazz us, okay? Cam Reddish. When you heard that the Knicks made the move to land Cam Reddish for Kevin Knox, the first-round draft pick that they got from the Hornets, and they got a second round, and they got, who's the other guy?
Solomon Hill.
Solomon Hill.
He'll be waived in short order.
Absolutely. What did you think when the Knicks landed Cam Reddish? Was there anything that stood out to you on why you believe Cam Reddish is now a New York Knick?
I think he's probably a Knick because the demand for him and his services around the league was probably pretty low. I mean, as you could tell from what New York gave up, or I guess more accurately, what New York did not give up, there wasn't a whole lot of demand around the NBA for a guy who, clearly very talented, high pedigree, number 3 recruit in the country, going into Duke, still went, 10th in the draft, even though he didn't have a very good freshman year. It's like the talent is there, but on court, it hasn't been great. Aside from the fact that he's been somewhat injury prone, he only played in, I think it was 20 some odd games last season. I don't know if you guys are into like advanced stats, but he has been the worst guy by on-off differential on the Hawks for each of the last 2 seasons. The shooting numbers have been a little bit better this year, but he's a guy that's more, he shows flashes of potential, but as an actualized basketball player, it's not there yet. Now, he's still young. He's only 22 years old. He could get better. It's just interesting to me that there were 28 other teams around the league who felt that it was not worth it to them to see whether he could get better there. I still think it's a good deal for the Knicks. I'm surprised they got him for as little as they did, despite what I just said. It's going to be interesting, though, because there's already some mouths to feed on this roster, and I think there's going to still be some mouths to feed. Now there's an extra mouth to feed now that he's here.
Well, now that you have Julius Randle, I mean, he's got a big mouth to feed, especially after the games. And with, before the games, he's got a lot to say, too. So I'm sure he's not very excited to add Cam Reddish because it keeps the ball out of his hands, and he loves it in his hands because he's a hungry, hungry hippo. Go ahead, Speedy.
So I was going to ask, in terms of the role that you think Cameron Reddish is going to have, both short-term and long-term. Always thought of as more of a 3-and-D guy, was very good at that role playing at Duke. He was not great in certain tournament games in that NCAA tournament run. There was actually one I remember I thought I wanted him to get benched. I thought it would have been better, but Duke ended up still winning anyway. What kind of role do you see him with the Knicks, like just getting there right away and also in the future if they do extend him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest question right now because, like I said, he's clearly a talented player, but he's also someone that in high school, the reason he was the number 3 recruit in the country is because he was a hell of a lot more than a 3-and-D guy. He kind of fit into that role a little bit more at Duke, and then since Atlanta drafted him, that's all they've asked him to do is, a lot of the time go stand in the corner and wait for Trae Young to kind of deliver the ball to you. Now, he's been in that limited capacity of his role this year, he's actually been pretty good. He's shooting, I think, like 48% from the corners this year, which is excellent. But if you believe the reports out of Atlanta, part of the reason he wanted out of there and allegedly demanded a trade in the offseason is because he wanted to do more. He wanted to, whether it's be more of a pick and roll ball handler or just get more time where, maybe not on the court with Trae Young, who's always running the show. So I think it's going to be really interesting here because you figure he's not going to start. New York has RJ Barrett and Evan Fournier, who they start for different reasons and I think deserve to start. So if he's coming off the bench and he's playing alongside guys like Emmanuel Quickley, maybe Alec Burks, depending on what the Knicks want to do when Kemba Walker comes back, like, is there going to be an avenue for him to explore more of the on-ball responsibilities that he seems to want? I don't know. I know that Tom Thibodeau just cares about one thing, winning basketball games. He is not interested in your concerns as an individual player for your own development. He just wants to be good. And if Cam isn't good enough to warrant those possessions, I can't imagine Tibbs is going to willingly, give into that. But you never know. I mean, again, I'll go back to it one more time. He's talented. So there's a chance he comes here and like the light goes on and the stuff he wasn't that efficient doing in Atlanta, he's more efficient doing here. I'm curious to see it. Again, the cost is cheap enough that it's worth finding out.
So a couple of things, because you actually just made a very interesting comment to me. So Tom Thibodeau also is very known to be a defensive guy, and Cam Reddish defensively is light years better than Evan Fournier. I think actually Evan Fournier in the starting rotation for the Knicks hurts them tremendously. But do you think Cam Reddish is going to work his way to get minutes from Tom Thibodeau? So the interesting thing to me is why this trade could either go either way for the Knicks is because is Tom Thibodeau going to actually give this young kid a chance, or is he going to hold him back like he does the other young Knick kids and let the veterans play instead? Because the only guy that truly gets the caliber minutes on this Knick team right now is Julius Randle. Everyone else is a night-by-night basis depending on how they're playing. Do you see?
Well, it's not really true. I mean, don't get me wrong. Randle gets a ton of minutes, and he gets a lot of shots. But RJ's kind of taken a step up. If you look back over the Knicks, I think it's going 12 or 15 games. RJ's actually averaging more shots than Julius. They've kind of been turning over the offense a little bit more to him of late. And I there's definitely a perception that Tibbs doesn't like to play the kids. I'm not sure how fair that is. Emmanuel Quickley has been getting a ton of minutes this year. Quentin Grimes, who's their first-round draft pick, they took 25th overall. He's been getting a lot of minutes, in games where, as you said, Evan Fournier hasn't looked so good. Grimes is getting the beneficiary of those. He's a guy who's, again, he's a rookie. The only rookie who's really kind of, I don't want to say he's been in the doghouse, but doesn't get a ton of time. And again, you reference Randle, is Obi Toppin, the kid they drafted last year, plays power forward. Julius Randle plays power forward. It's not a great situation for him right now. But I don't think Reddish's age is going to be an issue. I think how well his defensive potential can be actualized and how well he will actualize it for this team. I think that's what's going to make the difference because, like you said, Fournier's been a trash fire on defense in a lot of games this year. And it's why Tibbs is getting frustrated with him. Reddish has the potential to be a good defender. He hasn't always shown it this year. And offensively, he's not nearly as efficient as Fournier. So again, I think there's they're adding an imperfect player to a group of imperfect players. So like, where do where does Tibbs go? I have no idea. But again, it's like the organization may have more of an interest in developing Cam Reddish. I'm not sure if Tom Thibodeau will share that interest. We'll find out soon enough, though.
We are talking to the dean of Knicks Film School, Jonathan Macri. Now, John, again, back to Julius Randle and this team. This year, I mean, the fans were screaming MVP last year. He had a smile on his face. He says, I love playing here. I love playing for the fans. I love the New York Knicks fans. Then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, the Knicks fans have not liked the way he's been playing. Obviously, he's not the same player he was last year. He's been hogging the ball. He's playing Carmelo Anthony basketball when he's nowhere close to the player Carmelo Anthony was. Let's be honest, okay? And to me, we've seen more air balls, more bricks from a guy like Julius Randle than we saw last year. And I believe last year, when there was no crowd he played the best basketball. When the fans started getting in and started coming in and watching the game, he wasn't the same player. In the playoffs, when the stadium was packed, he wasn't the same player. So do you believe with Julius Randle's play over the last couple of months, even from last year, the second half of the season when the fans were there, do you think it's a problem, Julius Randle playing in front of all these fans and people booing him and getting on his nerves because he's not playing the game that he was playing in the beginning of the season last year?
I mean, the booing has definitely gotten to him. All you have to do is watch any press conference or see how he responded to the booing, the other night with the whole thumbs down thing. I don't know about the narrative that again, this is a guy who put up, albeit as a more of like a third option, some pretty nice numbers his last year in LA and his only year in New Orleans. So it's not like we haven't seen him produce in front of fans before, but that is a very different animal than producing in front of fans as the first option in Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he had a chance to do that in his first year here. And I don't want to say he failed miserably. I think he started off terribly over the first 20 some odd games and then, rebounded to have a decent end of that year over under Mike Miller after Fizdale got fired. I don't know. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that he tried to adjust his game to accommodate Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier when they were signed, because those are two other guys who like to have the ball in their hands. And the one thing I'll say in Julius's defense, and God knows I've been very hard on him this year, is I do think his intentions are in the right place. Like, he is still trying to pass a lot. It's led to some more turnovers than you'd like. The assists are down. There are some bad shots because he does also try to get himself going at the same time as trying to accommodate others. I think what's bothered fans, and what's bothered me at least, is the body language stuff, the extra efforts on defense that we saw last year. That
he cries. I've never seen somebody cry as much.
Oh, he complains a lot.
Oh my God.
He complains a lot.
Oh my God. I mean, and feed the ball to RJ. If RJ's the hot player, he's the better player on the court, feed him the ball. Let him be the leader. He hates it. He hates it that RJ Barrett is taking over games.
It's funny. That's come up a couple times. Do we think it gets under Julius's skin that RJ gets, his name chanted at the Garden, whereas Julius is kind of like persona non grata at the moment after last year? Maybe. I mean, he's only human. At the same time, those two do seem to have a pretty good relationship. And you see them kind of picking each other up a lot. That said, Julius, I think, wants to be recognized for what he brings to the team. And that's the thing of it is, for as frustrating as he has been this year, they need him because there's nobody else on this team that draws two to the ball. Even RJ, when he's going, he still hasn't quite developed that ability, to really draw a second defender consistently. He's working on it. It's getting better, but he's only 21 years old. Like, Julius Randle could draw a second defender more possessions than not. They need him in there. They just need him to, be better than he's been.
So I want to go back to the Reddish trade. A lot of people are thinking this could be a draw for Zion Williamson, either in a trade or in free agency. He wanted to be drafted by the Knicks in the lottery at the time. The Pelicans obviously won the lottery. Do you think this could be a draw? And would you want him, even with the injury issues he's endured and these weight issues that people claim they have? I'm not really sure how much I buy that. But would you want him here if that was the case?
I mean, yeah. He's a franchise-changing talent if he could stay on the floor. In terms of the weight stuff and the injury stuff, I have no idea. It's you look at pictures, he certainly looks like he has not necessarily been keeping himself in peak physical condition. Will that change if he goes to a new team? I have no idea. But again, it all comes down to what's the situation where they're getting Zion Williamson? He would need to essentially go to New Orleans management and say, I am never playing another game for this franchise